Good evening and welcome to February 4th.
Present.
Happy Yellow present. You said you present?
Jesse, you're present?
Alan present.
Number 2B. Second item, review and approval of the minutes from January 20th.
Make a motion, we accept the meeting minutes.
Second.
Oh,
Andy, now present. I. Now you got me all flustered.
Happy Yellow eye. You said you got it.
Jesse, your eye.
Alan, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Okay, action items. We have two cases that are asking for continuances. The first one is 234-7 and 57-2-V-24 sub, parentheses 14. Owners are Edward Lemos and Mark and Marla Lemos. They've requested a continuance until March 4th meeting. Is there
I make a motion, we continue this meeting, continue to the March 4th meeting.
I second that. Right?
roll call?
Yes, they did it.
Aye.
Happy Yellow eye. You said you got it.
Jesse, your eye.
Alan, aye.
Driscoll, aye. Second item, 257-29-1 -25 sub, owner Joe Falzone, request for the applicant for request for a continuance until March 4th meeting. Motion?
Make a motion, we continue the meeting until March 4th.
Second that.
Roll call.
Happy Yellow eye. You said you got it.
Jesse, your eye.
Alan, aye.
Driscoll.
It's like to get you comfortable.
Item number 5, other business that may come properly come before the board.
Sorry.
A, meeting mechanics with Vanessa Price.
Just a few things for the board tonight. I know that in recent meetings, there was discussions if things can be discussed at a meeting or not. If there is an item of topic that the board or any board member feels that they want to talk about either at a work session or other business and it needs to be properly noticed, just give me a heads up before Thursday, before noon of the meeting, and we can do it that way. And that's in kind of in response to last work session that should have been properly noticed. And so that should be easy enough. And I just had a quick discussion for the board. I'm looking at PREPA grant. I don't even know if I should say that. Piscataqua.
Oh, you have not been here long enough.
No, I have not. I will still have to practice that. Anyhow, so right now they're doing requests for proposals are actually the actual grant for projects from 5,000 to 25,000. The town does not need a match. I met first with the Conservation Commission last Thursday regarding the topic because there was a few projects that we wanted to look at. One was like the prime wetlands or potentially doing a natural resource master plan chapter, and also doing maybe a stormwater regulations. Fast forward to Friday, I met with SRPC, who have helped other municipalities prepare for these type of grants, and they can do all three. However, they recommended potentially looking at perhaps doing a septic system ordinance. Now, I know that's something that we've kind of talked with and talking about with the Shoreland Overlay District about those potential zoning and also stormwater regulations. I know we're not part of an MS4, which means an urbanized area over, don't remember the threshold, but it's creeping into us that we would be required for stormwater regulations by EPA. It's slowly creeping into Barrington, and in 2030, I think we would have to get that will be reevaluated by the state. We currently are exempt from having that. And this is just from my point of view, and for our developments, I think we should have stronger regulations, especially for water quality and that sort of thing. So I wanted to bring that subject as well as they're calling it Land and Water Conservation Master Plan chapter instead of a natural resource chapter, because you also wanted to incorporate our trails committee that we're working on and trying to get stronger regulations for that. So that could fall into there, as well as conservation lands and that sort of thing. So it's just kind of like a topical overview of like subject matter. I don't know if there was support from the planning board on any of these kind of topics, or if there's other ones that you may be interested in. The granting closes out in mid-March. Like I said, the Conservation Commission had supported project ideas for it. Not necessarily looking, I mean, I would like the planning board to be on board with it. But I just wanted to get the input from the board. I know that's kind of, don't really have a whole lot of backup information on those, just because it's seemed to kind of like spur at the moment. I met with the granting agency and asked a couple questions, and they said all those 3 projects sounded like a good project to do. Anything over 25,000 could be used by funds. So like for example, our office has a $10,000 budget, proposed budget for this year. So if it went above the $25,000 threshold, we could potentially use funds for that, or Conservation Commission, but there's no required match. So, and speaking with SRPC, it sounded like they could stay within the $25,000 budget for the septic ordinance and the the stormwater regulations, as well as the Land and Water Conservation Master Plan chapter. You could also pick multiple projects. However, the granting agency strongly suggests that you just do one. Barrington hasn't done one in a while, so I think we are not necessarily favorable, but have a stronger opportunity to be in the projects. I can bring more information to you at the work session if you would like more information. Like I said, it just kind of quickly came about, and wanted to get input if there was a certain direction that the board might want to see future, or have a preference, or if you're just like, this is great, just go ahead. I might be asking for a letter of support for either one. So
I think more information.
Yeah.
And it would only proceed if, as a grant fund, correct? But it wouldn't end up being a budget item or an item applied to the tax bit.
If it's under 25,000, no, it'd be solely a grant. So like if it was, let's say 30,000, I could potentially use money in my budget, because I have a budget for consultants for that, or talk to the Conservation Commission if they support that. We didn't really talk about that because we were anticipating that the cost would be fully grant funded.
I think I've lived through 2 updates to the master plan that SRCP did, and they both came in significantly under 20.
Yeah.
Right. I had a question. So septic, would that come under the land and water conservation idea, or is that a separate?
So it's a separate line item. So it was SRPC has done it for a few other communities. I think, I can't remember on the top of my head. I think I want to say Newmarket, but they had said that the septic system would be a good one to do, and you could couple that with the stormwater regulations. They did recommend that it may come from the select board versus the planning board for the ordinance. Just that's how it kind of goes. So if that's something that the board would support, they suggested going through like the select board for an official adoption, I guess.
So you're saying we could do septic and land and water conservation?
It'd be like the septic system and the stormwater regulations would be one project, and then the land and water conservation master plan chapter would be a separate project. There's also the third project looking at prime wetlands. In discussion with SRPC, it'd be more of, are there additional wetlands that we may want to have surveyed, which I need to bring that back to the Conservation Commission about that, because we weren't sure like the project scope for that. Because initially we were thinking like having all the wetlands, but that was like that'd be more than $25,000.
What are we trying to accomplish with regard, septic systems is just a very broad and generic term.
It is. It's more for water quality for, along the lakes.
To check the Molten Borough and Meredith regulations, they have their own septic rules. Towns are allowed to go well beyond state mandates, so check those out and it shows you what they do.
If our new one passed.
Simple thing is like, you require everybody to pump out every 3 years.
Right. So it may have more teeth or additional regulations maybe that if the one passes that we have right now in front of the zoning.
I guess my
amendment.
question is, say pump out every 3 years.
Mhm.
Where would that be? In zoning, in subdivision, in site? I mean,
So when they do the ordinance and go in zoning,
That's my question.
that's what I'm thinking. How would we enforce that? Through
That's a good
our
question.
regulations, which are zoning,
Probably
when you
could do it
build,
in innovative.
when you
land use
subdivide, or when
controls.
you do multi-family housing.
There's a generic area that calls environmental regulations, that we have 4 or 5 already in our,
Yeah, but that's only when something happens. Somebody subdivides, someone builds multi-family housing.
well,
Some
some of the
don't.
towns actually require inspections every,
That
Some
wouldn't be
of
in
them.
our, that wouldn't be in ours.
yeah, it can be, yes. It's under the health regulations that the health
like the health
has
officer, which would be the
control.
code
So-
enforcement.
Very broad in New Hampshire.
Would be,
So we can have Jamie do it.
Well, he also has Ralph and he also has John. He has 2 other folks.
Okay.
They're not the health
so
officer.
it'd be in our
communities that
regulations,
figure
but it
this
would
out.
be,
Well-
it wouldn't be anything we would look at. It'd be a code enforcement issue.
Well,
Probably.
it's like right now, if you try, under the new regulations, you have a 20-year-old system in one house, you have to have the septic. Check it out. Doesn't sell a house.
Built house. That'd be replaced.
Oh, yeah, it's like Title V. in
I think the buyer
Massachusetts.
pays for the inspection.
Well, I'd be surprised about. I think they'd walk away at that point.
Maybe 50 cents. Memory's not so good that I'm willing to go full buck anymore.
Well, thank you.
But it's negotiable.
Well, thank you. I guess I get that sounds like there's support, but more information on
Yeah.
the projects and what they may entail more.
Right.
I'll be honest, I'm struggling with the idea of saddling a town board member, or not a town board member, a staff member with additional responsibilities above and beyond what is already there for systems that were approved, and then adding the burden of monitoring, tracking, and everything that's gonna go along with
Yeah.
Yeah,
that, like.
the tracking and the monitoring is how,
Yeah.
when I pump it out, I gotta notify the town. I mean, if I don't notify the
Everybody-
town, how do you know? I
Well,
mean,
but then what do you have to provide your inspection? I would assume you would have to provide your inspection report that you had it pumped, or your pumping report, which now is gonna become a
I
whole
don't get a
lot more
report.
formal.
But the big picture is we've got cyanobacteria blooms on our lakes and we have
It's only
lakes
gonna
that
get
shut
worse too
down.
with the warming
People are
up.
paying a lot of taxes to.
But that shouldn't affect the people that aren't.
Well,
And-
remember, Joyce, we proposed that one that says now, if you expand on the lake, you gotta check your system and you gotta replace it if it
Right.
fails.
But it's only the people who, so you could have an old building and not have it.
And once again, how do you
Right.
track that and monitor that, you know what I mean?
Well,
Gets
I
back to what
think
Randy's talking
we
about.
could at least look into that and see how other.
Yeah, I suppose.
Go
For
look at the
fertilizer
Yeah,
contributes
go
to
look
it
at the
too.
people,
So now we're
like,
gonna soil test everybody's property to see.
No, but they're, I mean, some communities are outlawing fertilizer on long.
But again, how do you
distance of the
enforce?
right, you shouldn't do it anyway, but I mean, I watched them, like, one of my neighbors, they're out there, you've got the lawn care company out there, making sure they've got their perfectly mowed and checkered lawn, and I'm like, why?
You don't want it to go downhill, 25 feet from the lake. I mean, you want it perfect all the way out of the. all the way
Oh,
to
it
the
goes
lake.
all the way, right,
No,
to the.
you can't do fertilizer within 25 feet by state law.
Some
Oh, and it
communities
doesn't
have
run,
extended-
it doesn't naturally migrate there anyway
Sometimes in the
either.
ground,
It
but that's the
stops.
state law.
25
But I mean, you
feet
would see
from the
everyone's
water.
lawn, it doesn't change 25 feet out from the lake. I mean, it's the same all the way. So
I
everybody
mean, those are the
fertilizes.
people that are creating the problem, and then you look at our causeways and where the roads run over, drainage swales and things like, and structures of that nature. That's where it is. If you look at the chlorides, they're rising in the lake. Why? Because they salt the hell out of the road going down through the causeways, where we used to run a sand salt mix, and you could do a low salt reduction when you were around the lake, which actually made sense. But we don't do stuff like that anymore. We've taken logic and just thrown it out the window.
So, but I think logic
Sorry, I'm a
for
little
the
salty
homeowner
here, if you
and,
No, I
and
agree.
the
I
town.
mean, 128
Like
has a
both.
salt, Route 128, Route 95 has a salt-free area. All along that reservoir that came in. They can do it, why couldn't we do it on a road, you know? Say it's sand only from now on. Be careful, don't run off.
We don't stockpile sand only, we only stockpile the mix, right?
Well,
I don't even know if we're doing mix anymore.
Does
For the
the
shed.
planning board want to send something to select?
I probably should wait till a new road.
What's the radiation? I didn't know that.
He'll be retiring at some point.
Or you could hang in there
Somebody's
another few
retiring.
years.
Maybe
Who
we could
knows?
do it before then. Could talk to
Right, why
Mark.
wait? I mean, obviously, you're not gonna get anything this season, but.
Correct.
But I think it's a good idea, but I think to look at it, but I agree that, you know, how does the code enforcement guy, if we put it on him, how does he know it hasn't been pumped in 3 years? I find that a little bit problematic.
John, can you
Check
figure out how?
Moulton Borough
Moulton
and Meredith, New Hampshire septic regulation.
I think this consultant should do that. Hire him.
Oh, yeah, we
Right.
can do that, yeah.
I'm not looking.
If you wanted to look
If
at
we get the
examples
dough,
from
right.
other
What about
communities.
Christ's sakes? They're rich.
Like, what stops
They've got
socking
a, they got a
into
tax,
our
total
tax
tax rate of like $3 per thousand, because they get all these summer people. On the little folks.
But they won't put anybody in school. I know, that's the best
The
thing.
kids, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so
there's
for-
like $1.5
Very
million
expensive property, no
for-
kids.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
best.
for the grant, it's supposed to be
What is
for
industry?
planning purposes and regulatory.
Oh, good.
So,
Okay.
I just wanted to. that's
Sounds
all.
good.
But, okay, well, I will bring some more information on our work session and
Okay,
we get some more answers for you.
okay. So, did we want to do our motion?
Motion to
Or we adjourn first and then do it and then not have the meeting within it, then come back to adjourn? Okay.
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting and enter into a non-meeting for discuss a legal issue.
Non-public session.
Are you here for a reason?
Sorry.
I'll second the motion.
Sorry,
I think it's a non-meeting, isn't it?
A non-meeting, do you
It's
want?
a non-meeting.
March 4th, they'll be back
Call before a non-meeting.
after they go to the ZBA for something.
We were saying it's a non-meeting. If it's non-public,
Yeah.
let me know there's certain criteria.
Okay, so it's a non-meeting. Sure.
Motion to adjourn and go to the non-meeting?
You already didn't hear it.
I seconded it.
Roll call?
Yeah, bye.
FPLOA.
Sorry, Paul.
Jesse, you're on.
Al and I.
Driscoll, aye. Okay,
So Marcus, this is
Anybody
an
that's
unusual
on-
meeting. This is not a good sense of.
Sorry,
how
there's
the-
somebody online. I just want to let them know.
Okay.
I see a Taylor online. Just to let you know, our regular business has concluded. The planning board has a non-meeting item to discuss, but then we'll be adjourning the meeting afterwards. So I didn't want you hanging online.
Do they know that both of the applicants
oh, yeah.
are
Should
being
mention
heard
that.
tonight?
Or Taylor, if you would like to make any comments or have any questions, both of the cases have been continued. I think you were on when the meeting started, but just wanted to be sure.